Hi, I'm Kathy Turk and I'm running for Lake Worth City Commissioner in District 2. We are now 8 weeks away from our March 12, 2019 city election. This year, we will be electing commissioners in 2 districts. District 4, which is currently held by Herman Robinson. He will be coming up against Tom Copeland, Richard Guercio, and William Joseph. In my district, District 2, there's myself and the incumbent Omari Hardy. Please remember that all Lake Worthians, no matter where you reside, will be voting for a commissioner in each district. So this is my 4th weekly video. In my first, I introduced myself and my qualifications and explained why I'm running. In the second video, I talked about the first of the top 10 priorities I intend to address as your city commissioner: respect for the residents of Lake Worth. I intend to be your representation on the dais. I intend to bring transparency to our city government. In my 3rd video, I spoke to the crime in our city. I discussed the contract we have with Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office and how we can augment their efforts to create a safer Lake Worth for all of our residents. I believe that the least a city can offer is to help its citizens feel safe and respected. The next 8 of my top 10 priorities aren't in any particular order. When elected, I will address these issues and opportunities as they come before me on the dais and in the community. This week, I had the pleasure of meeting with Lake Worth Electric Utilities Director Ed Liberty. So I will be explaining why one of my top 10 priorities is that we must invest in the electric company's equipment and infrastructure. First, along with discussing priorities, I promise to answer questions in these videos. This week, I have received calls and emails regarding the resolution my opponent brought to the dais. First, let me explain the proposed resolution. Right now, the city takes eviction information from the county and cross-references it with our business licenses. If a landlord is found to not have a business license, they are notified and given time to get things squared away. If they don't do this, they are fined $250 per day. We already follow each of these steps. Omari's resolution asks that the magistrates be instructed not to reduce fines for landlords. While it is true that sometimes fines are reduced, it is generally in extraordinary circumstances. Omari wanted the city to donate the landlord's fine money to legal aid, where the tenant can be represented to fight the eviction. This resolution makes a lot of false assumptions, and Omari has not provided details on how many tenants who pay their rent on time and reasonably maintain their property are being evicted. My greatest issue with this is that we are working extra hard to change the perception of Lake Worth. We have a name change on our ballot so that the public and news outlets will stop falsely reporting crimes as taking place in our city when they happen in unincorporated areas. And here we have a commissioner, a city official, elected and paid to represent us, contacting the Palm Beach Post and television news outlets to discuss Lake Worth's rampant slumlord problem. Those were the headlines: Lake Worth and slumlords. In the end, when presented, members of the dais approved a motion to receipt and file Omari's resolution. This means it was received and it will be filed. Of course, he then went back to the Palm Beach Post, and for another day, the headlines read, "Slumlords in Lake Worth." On to the electricity. As I stated before, I believe one of our top priorities must be to invest in our electric company's infrastructure and equipment. The electric utility contributes 8% of its earnings to our general fund. In 2018, that amounted to over $4.5 million. This is a business and we need to treat it as such. And every business owner knows you must maintain your equipment. Lake Worth didn't have the means to invest, and it was allowed to become antiquated and worn out. I may butcher the electric lesson that Ed gave me, but I'm going to do my best. First is the power process. So as you can see here, the basic process is generation, transmission, distribution, and to the customer. Here in Lake Worth, we focus on transmission and distribution, not the generation. Our power plant and system were built in-house between 1968 and 1978. It's ridiculously under capacity, and when necessary, it takes 6 to 8 hours to fire up. So we purchase our power from third parties. This is a cheaper, more reliable means of power generation, and Ed believes that even if we had the money, which would be about $100 million, to build a new plant, we would still be in a better position purchasing rather than generating. Through the Florida Municipal Power Agency, we have part ownership in St. Lucie and Stanton power plants, which together provide us with about half of our required electricity. We recently negotiated a very favorable contract with Orlando Utilities, which provides about 49% of the power we use. Today, 1% of our power is generated at our solar farm. Ed tells me that this will increase to 6% by 2020. So concentrating on transmission and distribution. Transmission gets the power from the generator to Hypoluxo, where it then goes into the power lines for distribution. We have what is called radius distribution system. You can see here. So as you can see, we go from 138 kb down to 26 kb, and then when it hits our power lines, we're at about 4 kb. Unfortunately, these lines, which have approximately 30 to 500 customers on each one, they act much like Christmas lights. So if one of them goes out, the rest of the customers on the line go out as well. Since coming on board, Ed has made the electric company's mission to have fewer outages, to have fewer customers impacted, and to bring us up faster. In the past, the electric company was judged by the number of complaints received. While this is still a gross indicator, Ed has now put in place micro indicators that analyze and report every outage. In the past 2 years, the electric company has begun segmenting our radial distribution. So in this one, you can see where if this power goes out right here, it now loops around and can catch onto this power line, so we don't all go out. We've also installed fault finders that light up when a system goes down, making it easier for the lineman to identify. We've added, and I couldn't read my notes on this one, but there are triggers installed in key locations around the city that automatically attempt to reboot the system should it go down, and that's generally because of lizards or small items. A huge threat to us, of course, are hurricanes, but also Florida temperatures cause equipment to overheat. It actually causes our lines to sag. Then we have birds, nests, trees, and squirrels. So the city is working to trim vegetation in an effort to avoid these hazards. The city has brought in 2 financial firms that specialize in utilities. One works to identify all of our costs, and the other, UFS, specializes in calculating utility rates. Today, we don't have a backup for this system. If something fails, it's a manual repair. Outages cost all of us. Businesses lose money, and homeowners, especially those with health issues requiring cooling or equipment, are put at risk. Ed estimates that to stabilize and provide backup to our distribution and transmission systems will cost between $40 and $80 million. These are really big numbers and they need to be fine-tuned, but our new contracts will increase our profitability. A stable system will mean less downtime, and Ed is working to cut unnecessary expenses. The final costs would most likely be bonded, and I believe that needs to happen sooner rather than later. So there you have it, Lake Worth Utility. I believe we must invest in our business, build the backup, and replace antiquated hardware. Thank you so much, and please join me next week when I discuss another of the top 10 priorities I intend to address as your City Commissioner. Thank you.